All right, it's 7 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting to order. We have one member on Zoom. So I'm going to start with the roll call. Karen?
Here.
Chris? Here. Melissa?
Here.
Mark? Here. Carlo, present. All right, so tonight, watch us on RCTV, blah, blah, blah. And now we have Bob in there. Great new look. Wait for him laughter. Wait for him after. Say hello. So we have public comment. We have select board liaison, town manager reports. Discuss vote authorize debt from MWRA, local financial assistance program. Pickleball design and cost update. Discussion, recal discussion, and vote of support. Vote to close the warrant. Retreat discussion. Vote on intermunicipal agreement for animal control that we have with Wakefield. We do this every year. Master plan pre-discussion, logistics, future agendas, approved meeting minutes, and we will go into executive session, and I'm pretty confident we will not be returning to open session. And with that, and if anyone would like to speak, please sign in. You don't have to, but it's always nice. And so for public comment, how many want to speak for public comment today? Just do, okay, all right. So we'll start with public comment. Try to keep it at 2 minutes, please. I don't want to do a timer.
It's short and sweet.
All right.
This is impressive. Hi, I'm Marilyn Shapley, 11 John Carver Road. I'm a member of the COA, but I'm speaking tonight as an individual resident of Reading. I'm doing it to call attention to Wilmington's awesome new senior center. It's an 18,000 square foot building that was completed on time within budget, and my understanding is without the need for debt exclusion. Moreover, it is already wildly popular in the Wilmington community. School orchestras are actually competing to perform in celebration of the accomplishment. And the high school did it, and the middle school heard, and they want to do it, so there's parades going on. I call attention to the Wilmington facility because it is an excellent and much needed role model for the senior hub that will replace our Pleasant Street Center. Wilmington Senior Center is smaller than the recal design proposals, but I ask you to imagine for a moment, because it could be in a different place, that a gym and more office space were included. And in that context, please think about Wilmington Senior Center as the senior hub that needs to be incorporated in Reading's recal. We get a lot of feedback from people that they just don't have much experience with senior centers, and they don't understand the nuances of what's different between a rec center and a senior center, and there are huge differences. So I think this is a good way to see a current senior center that, to my eye anyway, is really very rich in what it offers. There's much to learn from Wilmington, and I encourage every single select board member to go see for themselves the kind of senior space that can be created when a community is committed to supporting healthy aging. Give them a call. They'll be happy to give you a tour. And I just point out, Reading's 60-plus population is approximately 25% larger than Wilmington's. We need everything you'll see in Wilmington and more. So please go take a look. It's a rare opportunity to learn, and they're dying to tell you about how they did it and what it has to offer. It's really a nice piece of work. So a suggestion, because we've got a long way to go with a million little decisions down the road. Thank you.
My name is Joseph White. I live on Prescott Street in Reading, and I'm here after attending the MBTA turnaround track meeting a week or so ago. There were a lot of people opposed to the project, but not many people that were in favor of it. I'm a commuter. I use the train all the time. Frankly, the numbers that they presented, I thought were relatively low, and I don't know if they actually did a good census. But anyway, I wrote a letter to the board. I have it here, and I'll give it to you. But I want to make a couple of points, and these were based on comments I got from the meeting the other day. There really are two options here. There's a third, they could do nothing. In other words, leave the schedule as it is. The schedule currently has 43 trains, 9 leaving Reading for Boston, or excuse me, 8 leaving Reading for Boston, 9 leaving Boston for Reading. The remainder either going to Haverhill or coming back from Haverhill to Boston. And they could leave it that way, but from what they said at the meeting, their mandate is to increase service. And so they're looking to increase the number of trains coming to Reading and leaving Reading, meaning that they want to increase the schedule number of trains. They can't do it without building a turnaround. However, given the opposition, if they get too much resistance and don't decide to build the turnaround, they'll use Wakefield as the hub for short trains, meaning that Reading loses service. By my count, those 9 plus 8, those 17 trains that either come to or leave Reading out of the total of 43 is 40% of our service. That's a huge loss of train service. So the options that I saw were either build the turnaround or lose service. And in fact, when I asked that at the meeting with the MBTA, they said yes, that is the case. They were trying to work with people here to get to a position where they could build the track. They own the land. They'll likely get approval and authorization to do it. They could do it on their own. Excuse me. They could do it on their own without anyone objecting, or whether people objected or not. But what I'm here to say is, I don't know who to speak to, because there weren't enough people that ride the train there to argue for it. I mean, if you ride the train all the time and then you suddenly lose 40% of your service, that really affects what you can do. Now, so I don't know whether the select board has any say in this, or whether it's up to the conservation committees, either local or state. But I want to at least make the point that there are a lot of people in this town that ride the train, and we need the service. So I don't know who else or where else to go to at least point this out. And there are some other options that I don't want to go into right now, but if this board has any say in it, I would argue that if Reading wants to grow, it needs the train service. Thank you. Who should I give this to?
Anyone else in the audience? Public comment?
I am Jean Prado, 25 Orchard Park Drive. I am a board member of the Council on Aging, but I'm here this evening as a resident. I have been a resident in Reading for about 53 years now. I have enjoyed the town. I appreciate everything the town has to offer, from first responders, DPW, town officials. I would not have been in this town this long, but I am finding right now the town needs to really and truly consider the 60-plus senior community and the proposed building site for a senior community center. It is important for the 60-plus seniors to have adequate facility, to maintain social and learning, whether you're 2 years old to 102. The senior population has changed immensely. We're not just sitting at home knitting or watching TV. We're active. And these seniors have been active in this town for many, many years, paying their taxes for our fabulous school system, for our athletic fields. My children have participated, and it has served our family well. So I sincerely would appreciate this town taking into consideration and thinking about the 60-plus community, as well as the intended AB building that is proposed for the rec. The seniors need an all-day program, and those who are 60-plus now take care, are caregivers, are babysitters, so they need the senior center in the evening. So yes, it is now time for this town to think of the 60-plus senior community. And I appreciate all that has been done. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room? Yeah. Jackie, it's you tonight, right? Jackie, anyone on Zoom, public comment?
No hands on Zoom.
All right. Thank you. I will start with Melissa for our liaison.
February 27th, the school committee met. Dr. Milichowski talked about the unified sports program that Reading has. Tara Herlihy, who is a Reading resident, parent and teacher in town, has really been a huge driver of that program. When the program, if people aren't familiar with it, when the program started, it was only in the high school, and they had a basketball and a strength training program, but now it's moved to the middle school, and they have bocce and basketball as well. The school committee also approved their FY26 school calendar. February 24th, CPDC met. They discussed a pattern book that they are contemplating using, which will create visual, user-friendly guide for developers and applicants to understand expectations for community planning and development. It sounds like in the spring it may be coming out, but to me it sounds like it's a book with like architectural designs and what the town expects from developers. So, and that will be readily available to residents, developers, town staff, and all that. And that's it. That's all I got.
All right, Mark?
Thanks, Carl. So 3 updates. One, last Tuesday evening, we had a lot of activities in town. One of them was a celebration of Black History Month that took place at the library. They had a trivia night. They had a pretty good turnout, even given that there were 3 things going on pretty much at the same time, which was really difficult. But it was nice to see that, and it was a good event. I was only able to stay for a little bit because I had to go to the MBTA meeting. Last night, a Holocaust survivor named Helga Melmed spoke at the PAC Center. She is 97 years old and had an amazing amount of energy, stamina, and a story that was truthful, scary, and unbelievable, but it happened. And I think her lesson for us was just to make sure it does not happen again, and to be aware. It was a very moving activity. The PAC was, I would say there were 300 people in attendance last night. Last thing, on the town website, we have some updates in the recal area, including an opportunity to see some videos to take a look at other centers that have recently put together some videos and other activities, including the Sandwich Center for Active Living, which I think is a really good video for folks to watch, to see what it's like, to get a tour, to see what it's like to be in the center, to see how it's used, to hear some interviews from some of the people that use it as well. So I think it's a really good add to the website and a chance for people to kind of understand what we're talking about here. So, and that's it. Thank you.
Chris?
Thanks, Carlo. The Sandwich Center sounds like a great name for a business. That's what I thought you had meant.
They have a cafe.
Do they? Do they
Sure
serve
they do.
sandwiches? No? Yes, I believe almost all of us attended the MBTA forum last week. I'm not going to belabor the point. We heard everything. There's a recording on RCTV. You can watch it back and get the sense of everything. But if people don't know, the MBTA pulled the permit temporarily or permanently, depends on what they do in the future. So that's kind of, it's on pause or not, ball's in their court. And then the charter committee met last night. We ended up voting and finalizing the changes to the charter. Ivrea and Laura are going to work, who's hiding behind the podium, are going to work on submitting it to to the state, I believe, by May 23rd, so we can have the most amount of time for feedback and participation by the public going forward. So the select board is going to end up more likely than not taking over the forums that have to be held for it, and then we could optionally pick a committee, most likely the charter committee again, to just hold those forums, because the, 8, 9 of us know everything about what we changed in the charter as opposed to just me and, little brief updates here and there. So it's gonna be on the select board to vote for the people for that. And at that time, I will advocate for all the existing members that were on there, including Jeff Beckwith, who won't be on town meeting anymore, but as you know, we can appoint him to that committee because it won't be done by the charter at that point. Whereas the charter formed the charter committee, this one is just an ad hoc that we would create. So the forums most likely will be starting July, August. We can pick how many we want, how little. I would assume at least 2, Zoom option, et cetera. And we would go over all that then. And then it would be able to make the November warrant of 25? I think so, yes. Yep. It's so confusing. We've talked about it so many different which ways that we could have done it, et cetera. So then it'll go on the warrant, and then it will get put out to the ballot as well. So then residents can vote on it as well. But that's it. Pretty much, there's no massive changes. We did add a couple tweaks here and there, mainly just taking out gender neutral kind of terms, just putting those in. But it's all on the website. We redlined all the different changes between the last and the new one, and that's pretty much it. That's all I got.
All right, Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, Tuesday night was a busy one. I echo my colleagues' comments, and the MBTA representatives were very patient, and they did get a lot of feedback from the town of Reading and staff, and so appreciated that time and effort that they put into that. And I would agree with the speaker that we heard from tonight. We are not hearing enough from the people who actually use the commuter rail every day. So I would definitely encourage more people to reach out to the Conservation Commission or the Select Board and just make yourselves known and heard. Also, just wanted to remind everyone with a college student that the Reading Scholarship Foundation deadline will be March 7th. And this is a really easy scholarship application. It is good for seniors. It is good for anybody who is still working on an undergraduate's degree. There actually is no age limit. rsf.org is the website. And then next week, as you all know, I've been serving on the Mass Municipal Fiscal Policy Committee. This is my second year. So I wanted to bring up next week's meeting because one of the initiatives before the legislature and the governor is making permanent hybrid and remote meetings. And what I did see a draft of was a letter that a municipality and elected official could send to let our wishes known. So I might suggest that we as a select board bring that letter and send it on to our representatives to the governor. If we are in agreement that we appreciate hybrid and remote in order to deliver better government, then we should lend our voices. So that's one option we have. And then I also wanted to let you know, I also saw a draft because the tax lien law regulations are going to be updated post the decision by the Supreme Court. So I'll be seeing a draft of those regulations, and it's going to be meaningful for lots of communities in the Commonwealth. But given one of our agenda items tonight, it's especially relevant for us. So after I have that meeting, I'll bring the regulations forward to this body. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, I was on Zoom for the Turn Back Track meeting last week, which was very well attended. The MBTA was better prepared, but still they have a lot of work to do. That's probably why they pulled back for now. And also, I wasn't able to attend, but I got an update from the CPA Committee, Community Preservation Act, and they had some presentations from other communities that adopted CPA and the benefits of it. So we have another meeting coming up. I think we're meeting monthly. And not really a liaison report, but we won't have a meeting until then. So the pickleball fundraiser is on the 16th at the gym, at the field house, sorry. And hopefully it is as well attended as has been the past 2 years. They'll offer lessons, open play, and that is on the 16th at the field house. I encourage anyone who's interested to learn or wants to play, please do so. And that's it for me. Matt?
Yes. I wanted to remind everybody that Winterfest is this week. It's still winter, so Thursday from 5 to 8 on the Common and the Cobblestones. They'll be celebrating Winterfest. The Chamber again is hosting. We're going to thank them for hosting as they do every year. Should be a fun event. Things for kids and adults as well. So want to remind people to get out there on Thursday night. Also, I wanted to say we've talked before about the AV upgrades in this room, and we've kicked around some dates and weeks. It's very hard because it's a very busy room, used a lot at night. But we've settled on the week of April 1st as a good week to do it. It's good for the vendor, for IT, for facilities. That would mean that your April 1st meeting will be moved to the library. We've already booked the room at the library to do that. Very comfortable room. We've had select board meetings there before, but I just want to announce that this room will be out of commission for that week, and then we'll have some really nice upgrades when we come back. I think you asked for a second water meter update at the last meeting. The program is now open to all residential properties. So far, we've had 48 applications. We've had 6 requests for inspections, and DPW's so far installed 2 meters. Residents who are interested need to, as people know, hire a plumber. The plumber will then initiate the application, and that application is found in the permitting section of the website. So 48, I think it's off to a good start. It's relatively recent, but that's the update on the second water meter. People are interested in the fire chief. As we know, Chief Burns is retiring. So this Friday, we're going to hold an assessment center here at Town Hall. It's not open to the public, but we will be using Town Hall while it's closed to have a thorough assessment center. We've hired a private firm to conduct it so we can ensure we have the best candidate for the important position of fire chief. So after that, the recommended candidates will go back to the screening committee. We'll do some interviews, and then ultimately it'll end up on the floor of the select board for your advice and consent on the candidate. So that will happen hopefully in April. And as people may not be well aware, tomorrow night FinCom's meeting to discuss the ReCal and the Killam projects. That meeting is going to be exclusively really about those projects and a few other housekeeping matters. But the week after that, on the 12th, is when they will begin to discuss the budget that I submitted last week, the FY26 budget. So that will be happening on the 12th, if needed, the 19th. So that will take us through pretty much every Wednesday in March. They've already discussed the school department budget week before. And I wanted to get the date out there so people can hold it. We are going to have a Killam, we're calling it the Killam ReCal Project Forum. That's going to be live on April 2nd. That's going to be at the PAC, our largest room. And then we're going to have a Zoom-only version of it, and that's going to happen on April 16th. So we finalized those dates today in a meeting that I had with a lot of the significant board members from the different boards and projects. And that's hopefully going to get people ready for town meeting. It's for not just town meeting members, but the public at large that are interested in those 2 major projects, our 2 big projects. So we thought we would have the PAC for that on April 2nd, and more will be coming out. We'll put it all out on social media many times, and we'll make sure everybody knows about that date. So, and that's the update.
Jean, any news?
I went to some of the same meetings you folks did last week. I'm working with our community development director on updates for what's going on with 3A, our MBTA communities, the green communities, and he gave me some information also about a conversation you're going to have today about the master plan So I have some information from him for later. I continue in the role of ombudsman to meet with various community groups. Today we met with the Reading Compost Group, which is a great meeting, and they gave us some great feedback about things we could do to improve our website, and we talked a little bit about the composting that's going on at the school system that's going on with Black Earth Compost. And we're looking for more folks if they're interested. The Black Earth program is $120 a year, which will be less expensive than a second trash cart. So it's an option that we're going to actually include on that same page for people. It's we're like, oh, that makes total sense. Why didn't we think of that? So that's just a few of the things, including all these other things that I work on. So thank you.
Alrighty, thank you.
Is it not?
Okay. All right, so next on the agenda is we're gonna discuss and vote authorized debt for MWRA, and I think Sharon is,
It's actually Diane
Oh,
Barbuto,
okay.
who's our treasurer, is on the Zoom.
okay,
To lead the discussion.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes. I think so.
Everyone can hear me?
not really.
I can turn you up. Go ahead, Diane.
Can you hear me now?
That's better.
Yes, I think so.
Good evening, everyone. This forum was previously approved at town meeting held on May 1st, 2023. The funds will be used for phase 14 of town sewer system rehabilitation to make repairs for the reduction and control of infiltration and inflow into the local sewer systems. MWRA will be providing the town with a financial assistance award totaling $1,040,000, of which 75% will be a grant totaling $780,000, and 25%, or $260,000, will be an interest-free loan. The $260,000 interest-free loan will be a 10-year loan and is scheduled to be issued on March 10th. Annual debt service payments totaling $26,000 will commence on February 15th, 2026. The bond council has reviewed the articles and all legal requirements as it pertains to this bond and have provided their approval. Matt and I have read and signed the two necessary documents, the MWRA financial assistance and the loan agreement. However, in order to proceed forward with it, we will need the vote and approval of the select board. I previously provided Matt with 3 sets of documents, which are to be signed. The first one is the vote, which the secretary of the select board will need to sign. And then the 2 other documents are the sewer bond and the closing certificate, which all members of the select board will need to sign.
All right, thank you. Any questions, board members? Pretty straightforward.
Good.
All good? Karen, any questions? No, seeing none? All right.
All right, the paperwork will make its way around.
Yeah, you want to do a motion, Chris, please?
So the motion depends if you want to get food, et cetera, while I'm speaking, because it's multiple pages, or somebody can waive the reading after.
I think you need to start it first, don't you?
Yeah, but it's long. So I, the clerk of the select board of the town of Reading, certified that in a meeting held March 4th, 2025, of which meeting all members of the board were duly notified, at which a quorum was present. The following votes were unanimously passed, all of which appear upon the official record of
Move
the
to
board.
dispense with the full reading of the article before you.
Second, do a roll call vote. Karen?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Carlo, yes. Okay. Thank you. We will now, we still have to vote.
Oh,
We
yes.
still have to vote.
Yes.
Yep.
Do like a one-line motion, want to just?
All in favor as presented.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, move to approve the MWRA sewer bond as presented.
Second, thank you. Roll call vote. Karen?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Carlo, yes, 5-0. Thank you. While we're getting that signed, we can get the pickleball design up on the screen, please, Jackie? You already did yours?
Yes. You already have it. It's another one. This one's mine, Matt.
Okay, thank you.
Chris. Chris. Stitch. This one is- Takes like 3 or 4 spots. All right, Jan, you taking the lead on this one?
We have Joel here
Oh,
this
okay.
evening, who's the designer from BH+A.
Joel, you can start, please.
He, presenting the spots.
Oh, excuse me, Ali, what?
Point of order, will there be a public comment before this, or?
We already had public comment.
Sorry,
Let me
I
see-
thought you guys did it with agenda items.
Well, that's if it's a hearing, so let's see how this goes, and I know you guys are here, so, thank you. Good, sorry.
Thank you, and it's Joel Bargman with PH+A. Online, we have Mark Novak and Steve Crisafilli from Activitas, who's the landscape architect and civil engineer for the project. The next slide. The site for pickleball is what's shown in the Recal and Pickleball site, which is a site that had been previously suggested by Weston and Sampson as a carve-out when the town acquired the 30-some acre, the large acreage of conservation and land adjacent to the Burbank Arena. So that the upper portion that parallels Burbank Arena is the site area that we're discussing tonight for the existing conditions. It's a wonderful location for pickleball because, as you can see from the aerial photograph, there's no residence within any near distance of the proposed pickleball sites. Next. The site is accessed down Range Road, which is the picture on the far left. You go to the left, that's Simmons Way, that takes you to Burbank Arena. The two pictures on the right show the conditions of the existing site. It's a forested, wooded site. There's wetlands to the south of the proposed site, and there's debris on the site from when there was a contractor using it as a staging and dump site for construction projects. That needs to be removed, although hazardous materials have not been registered on that site. Next. I want to explain a little bit about what we're going to talk about in terms of the construction. When you have a site like this, the first 12 inches of the site is what's called forest mat, and that all needs to be excavated and removed from the site because it's not bearable for a surface for a court. So that's built into the project. And I just wanted to go through some of these slides to explain the soil condition, because I think we've had a number of public meetings for Recal and this where we've discussed the geotechnical conditions on the site. And I want to make sure that people aren't concerned about what we're proposing or there aren't misunderstandings about it. So the first 12 inches of excavation is this leaves and all that's been deposited on the site for years. Next. The site on the white box on the left is Recal, which is the 28,000 square foot community center, senior focused, senior centric. There's a parking lot in between it, and the pickleball is on the upper right. There are 7 courts proposed, one of which is at the far right, the handicapped accessible, fully accessible court. You can see it sort of spans the extent of that proposed site break-off of the town-owned land. So the master plan was identified during the feasibility study phase for ReCal because pickleball happens to be hugely popular with number of seniors, and our senior centers typically incorporate pickleball inside and outside these days, but also because of the lack of any proximate neighbor, you're facing the backside of Burbank Arena where those pickleball courts are located. Next. Can I get the next slide, please? So this is just a picture to show the proximity. This is actually happens to be Sandwich that was mentioned earlier. There are 6 pickleballs in the middle of the image, and then the 28,000 square foot identical footprint size as the ReCal building is in the back. So I just show that because that's been up now for 2 years. There has not been one complaint about pickleball noise emanating to the senior center. So we have the similar distance at ReCal, but in addition at ReCal, there's a new energy code since Sandwich is built. To meet the energy code, we selected one option was to go with triple pane windows because the added benefit of thermal conservation, a triple pane window is much quieter than a double pane window. So we have a distance separation and we have a noise separation on all the windows at ReCal that I think will assure that folks don't have to worry about the adjacency of pickleball to the ReCal program. Next. But it does show you the popularity of the program. So back to little high school geology, I think some of you have heard that we've talked about the site as we've talked about ReCal and some of the costs that go into ReCal. We've mentioned that the site has unconsolidated soils, and I think people get nervous when they hear that. Unconsolidated soils means that the ReCal and the pickleball site is part of a strip that emanates in Reading in the north and runs down to Lincoln, Sudbury, Needham, where the glaciers retreated. They left this consolidated gravel that had grown onto the glaciers as the glaciers moved south. And the reason it's unconsolidated is that as the glacier melts, the land that's on the glacier sits on the land that was there before, and it's not under pressure, it's not consolidated. It doesn't mean that it doesn't drain, it doesn't mean that it's not bearable, it just means that the right side of that field may not settle the same way as the left side of the field. So the ReCal building actually just drills through that gravel mess, and 8 feet down there's great barren surface, you don't have to worry about it. But you don't want to do that with pickleball courts. So when we explain the cost for pickleball, we're proposing to put a post-tension concrete slab that will bridge over that unconsolidated soil, which means we don't have to remove the soil, we don't have to put in ground improvement or piles to support the slab. So that's built into the cost. I just wanted to explain it so that people don't say, well, there's a soil issue there. It's not a soil issue, it's just something to overcome in the design. Next. I mentioned the forest mat, so that does have to come off. Then they proof roll to fill in that glacial till, and then on top of that we would pour a slab. Next. And what you'll hear is one of the costs that's in this project is this reinforced concrete slab, which is designed to bridge those gaps, and over time the slab doesn't weep and warp the way a parking lot does or the way an asphalt court might do on this site. So the intent of adding a post-tension slab to the base of the pickleball courts is to avoid having to replace them in a short amount of time because of the conditions. Now, even if you don't have an unconsolidated soil site, it's recommended to go to a higher quality court because, as you see, freeze thaw in New England wreaks havoc on tennis and pickleball courts. But that's sort of a picture of what we're proposing as an infrastructure underneath the pickleball courts. Next. The alternative is just asphalt, and what asphalt has is no steel in it, so there's no ability to reinforce the surface as it goes across the soil, and you might have one court that is lower or has a puddling condition. None of those things are great for the pickleball players, so we do have a cost for the delta between these two systems, but I think it's pretty, we do have Activitas on to attest to this. A lot of discussion has gone on, and the proposal includes the higher quality, longer life court surface. Next. So pickleball is thought of as a separate project, and it's thought of as two phases. To make sure that it made sense to do as a separate project, we did have it estimated to be built with ReCal. Because of the contractor markups, to combine it with ReCal actually turns out to be about $200,000 to $300,000 more expensive than to separate it out, bid it to a separate site contractor. The advantage of doing that is not only do you save money, but the pickleball courts could be built right. If they both pass this spring, they can both start at construction, but ReCal will take a lot longer than the pickleball courts. So pickleball as a separate contract could be up and operational much sooner than the building would. So disengaging them, cost and schedule improvements. Next.
Can I ask one question
Yes,
before I
sir.
forget? So if for some reason the ReCal doesn't pass, are we adding 200 to 300 to this price?
No.
No, okay.
If ReCal doesn't pass, that's what this picture is. You can see pickleballs there behind the Burbank Arena. We would use the same access road that's there today because ReCal's picking up the first 250 feet of that road. We don't want to, it doesn't make sense for a pickleball to pick up that road. So they would use the existing range road. There's a parking lot proposed right next to the pickleball, and then there's the 7 courts go in, and then ReCal can go in whenever it passes. On the other hand, next slide, if the town chose to do ReCal and defer the pickleball courts, this is what it would look like. You would get that first extension of road, downrange road with ReCal, and then pickleball could be built in at a later time. So all contingencies are covered, but the cost estimate's done to assume that pickleball just is its own.
Is separate.
Standalone.
Okay, so there would be a savings done together. Gotcha, thank you.
Next. So the next slide. In the budget, we have the concrete slab, and we currently have the lighting for all 7 courts. That's included in the budget that I'm going to present to you, and these are just showing some ideas of how the lights would look. Next. I don't know if Steve or Mark have anything they want to add before I get to the cost part of this.
Doing a great job, Joel.
Thank you. All right, so this is the all-in cost, separate project from ReCal, but with the concrete slab, with the lights. It includes 7 courts, one of which is fully accessible. It includes the post-tension concrete court surface, lighting. It includes a connection to Burbank Arena for overflow parking, which is something to be discussed and negotiated further. It includes an amount of furniture and accessories, trash bins. When you have pickleball courts like this, you have 4 players on the court. You have 4 players waiting to play, so they need some benches to sit on. You want to bolt the benches in so that they don't get lost, and that's all in the budget. That 1.894, so very close to 1, is a significant cost, but we wanted to present that amount. Of that 1.8 million, I'll just break out a few of the things I mentioned. The site furniture, the benches, there's an area in the middle of the courts that's a sort of gathering place that people can wait and there's for their game. There's bulletin boards there, there's furniture that goes in there. So there's site furniture, there's a small landscape allowance, and there's a sidewalk that connects the front door of ReCal up to the pickleball courts. that's included as asphalt, that could be changed to, it's included as concrete, it could be asphalt instead of concrete. The cost of those items is $100,000, and if you wanted to save $100,000, those are often things that are done as fundraisers. Often the landscape allowance is done as a landscape contractors in certain towns donate services for those. There might be other ways to accommodate those. Those aren't necessarily essential for the direct operation. You'd still have a path connecting Recal to the pickleball, it just would be asphalt instead of concrete. Someone had asked, what is the cost of a court? We have 7 courts. Sandwich happened to have 6 courts. So I just said, if you were to say 1 court, the cost estimator did that calculation, that would be $190,000 for a court to be saved. And then you also have the option of deferring lights. You can play pickleball, it's nice to have the lights, but it is almost a $200,000 option to include the lights. So like in Sudbury, we have this condition, we put in all the infrastructure, the conduits, ready to pull cable through them, ready to put lights on the courts, but we did not buy the lights. And as I mentioned, that's a significant cost savings. So you could bring this $1.894 million project down in steps to a more manageable cost if the town and the community so desire. I know that's a lot to absorb, so I can repeat those numbers. And Mark, Steve, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to add on the option of the concrete versus the asphalt, because we do have a cost delta for that. We also have some cost analysis on the life cycle costing of that scenario, if people are interested.
In the presentation or in your head?
And Mark has that.
Oh.
Good evening. I'm Mark Novak, Design Principal with Activitas. Just to weigh in on what Joel said about the post-tension concrete, we're seeing largely a shift in the market over the past couple of years. It started at the collegiate level and private courts were moving from asphalt to post-tension concrete, but now most municipalities are going with post-tension concrete because of the added lifespan and durability of that surface. With asphalt, unfortunately, asphalt isn't the product that it was, 15 years ago. And some courts that are installing asphalt these days with RAP, which is recycled and processed asphalt, we're seeing something happen in the surface. It's called strip cracking, and it causes very thin cracks in the acrylic surfacing, and that's just because the integrity of the asphalt just isn't the same. Even when we specify no RAP in the asphalt mix, there's still the chance of having that RAP. So, you could have a brand new court, and within 6 months have cracks all over the court. We've witnessed that in a number of municipalities over the past 5 years. So that's largely why people are going to the post-tension concrete. With the post-tension concrete, you can expect the surface or the base to last at least 25 years. Some say up to 50. And really the only thing that you have to do from a deferred maintenance standpoint is reapply the colored surfacing on top when it starts to wear thin. It floats as one slab, as Joel was talking about, so you don't have to worry about ground improvements underneath unless you have really compressible soils, which we don't have here. I think it's obviously a larger investment up front, but over the long term, it pays off in spades.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah, that obviously we would discuss that with the high school floor, the gymnasium floor. So obviously, maintenance and safe playing surface is very important for any sport. Okay, we do this last slide for you. You done? All right. Board members?
Is there another slide?
I-
Oh. Yeah, that's it.
Mark?
So a couple questions, I guess. First, what happened? I don't think anybody anticipated a number like that. So I hear a little of the discussion, just so we all understand, what's the difference in cost between the two approaches? So
Asphalt versus
asphalt
concrete?
versus concrete. So that's one question, and I'll add to it. So 25 years, 50 years, whatever. How long do they guarantee it?
It's on Mark Novak.
Mark?
How long is it warranted?
Yes, that's one question.
Yes, 5 years.
Either one?
No, the asphalt courts will only be guaranteed a year. For the post-tension concrete, 5 years. But if you see any issues within 5 years, if you don't see any issues, I should say, within 5 years, then you're great to go. It's really like a parking deck, in a parking garage. Those are all post-tension slabs that span between the support posts. So it's a tried and tested method of construction. And again, it is more expensive than the asphalt. Joel, do you have a number on the delta to go to asphalt?
Yes,
In front of you?
it's $300,000.
More?
Asphalt would be a savings of $300,000. So if you take out the lighting and you do those, it brings it down to a number that you may have heard. But often those numbers aren't apples to apples.
So, I'm still trying to understand a little bit more. So, understand not apples to apples, but I think it was, the notion of an all-in project was closer to half that number. I think it was around $1 million was the, at least that's the number I had in mind. I'm curious, so I understand you're saying there's 300 for this. What else was there? Because it wasn't as lit as I understand.
If we added it, we've added in the site furniture, we've added in
100,000 for soft costs.
This has soft costs in it too, the design fees, it has the testing for the soil, it has, I didn't mention, I'm sorry, it does have a contingency built in, which right now the contingency is at $150,000. We could possibly reduce that. You don't necessarily have to spend all the money that's approved. When we get to the next phase of design, there's really opportunities to dig deeper into the soil analysis and potentially save even some more money. I would say that the number that you may have heard, if you take the lighting out, you do 6 courts instead of 7, which is sort of the typical size that we run with. That is a $1.4 million project, which is closer to where you might have thought. Now, that for $1.4 million, you take out the design fees and everything else, it's all getting closer to what people might say, oh, courts are $1 million. You don't necessarily have the design fees, the bonding costs, etc.
Is there already discussion on kind of how to, we'll call it value engineer this? Are there already discussions taking place? Is there anything going on?
Sure, we've had a couple of sharpen our pencil conversations, and that's some of the value engineering that he's already presented. So you can remove some of the furnishings. We don't have to remove $100,000 in soft costs. We can remove some of those costs. I think the contingency is important to keep on there, considering the market that we're in right now and that environment. I think that there's other pieces in there that we can do. I think the lighting, we really said, give us the cost of the lighting as its own piece will run the wire to it, which is not an insignificant expense to bring that over, but it'll be there so that if there's an appetite to do some fundraising for lighting later, that's a real goal, that's a tangible goal, that is, it feels good. And that lighting could go in later, and that's a $200,000 savings. So we anticipate that this would be a heavily used, community asset. So having lighting there is really desirable, and we hear that. But we want this to be a appealing project to approve. So we can take some of these pieces out into, like you said, value engineering.
What was the discussion of 6 versus 7 courts? You mentioned 6 is more typical.
To bring the cost down.
Oh, to go from 7 to 6,
Yeah.
right?
To go from
I'm
7.
wondering why we started at 7.
We started at
Started at
8.
Started at 8, right?
We started at 8, yeah.
So in early conversations and working with the conservation agent, it became very clear that no matter kind of what configuration we were looking at, we really couldn't make the 8 courts fit and not be, into that buffer zone too much. So we wanted to, really respect the Conservation Commission and what that's going to look like. So we went back to the RPPA and said, we don't think we can make 8 work, but we can make 7 work. So that's why we're at 7. That would make us, a premier complex in Massachusetts. 6 is a more common size
Yeah, that's the most common.
with our peer communities. So that's why we asked for what that value would be. Okay.
More a topic for later today, but related to this,
Yes.
and also for next week. We as a community need to decide where our priorities are going to be and kind of figure them out. If it's 3 or 4 projects, then that's what we should be doing and kind of pull back on other things. And I think that this board started that when we had the first downtown renovation discussions. And maybe I know next week we'll talk a little bit more about revisiting that, but that all kind of factors into how we work with ideas like this. And I'm very sensitive to figuring out how do we get the things we really want now, and other things maybe they move down the capital plan. So I'll bring it later, but that's my thought.
Melissa, anything? Yeah.
I just wanted to confirm, so the reinforced concrete has a lifespan of 25 to 30 years, did I hear that correctly? And then what's the asphalt lifespan?
Mark?
The asphalt's a bit of a wild card. In the past, we would say 10, 15 years, but we've seen courts more recently failing within the first 5 years with the strip cracking. In the strip cracking, I think Joel mentioned when he was talking about the asphalt process, if you add a sheet of fiberglass over the asphalt during the acrylic surfacing process, that can help to alleviate the strip cracking. But there's an additional cost to the asphalt fiberglass sheet that I don't believe was in the $300,000 or $200,000 to $300,000 savings, was it, Joel?
Yeah, the sheet was not included.
Do we know what that costs? If we did.
That cost would be for the area that we're talking about, 7 courts. It would be in the $75,000 to $100,000.
Okay, thanks.
And then if we did go down to 6 courts, would we still keep one as an accessible court? Yes.
Yes.
You wanted to confirm that.
Are we at ground level? Aren't they all accessible?
Well, in theory, they all are, but the recommendation for a fully accessible court is slightly larger than a regular court.
Okay.
Wider.
So, want to have one that meets
No problem.
ADA requirements.
You good, Melissa?
Yes, I am. Thank
Chris?
you very much.
Thanks, Carla. Yeah, for me, I can't always sit up here and claim to be the money guy and then not push back on the money at times. And this, as Mark alluded to, is one of those times where we thought one thing, here comes the other. I understand you explaining it out now, how we got to this point, because my mindset was, I'm just gonna buy a house, knock it down and put up 8 pickleball courts and it's cheaper than this. Like, that's kind of like, I don't know why we wouldn't have done that. I understand then you're buying a house in a residential neighborhood and forget about it. So I had a couple questions. So you mentioned the design fees. What actually, so I believe we ascribed, accrued, whatever, 87 grand, I think, for that. Was that all used?
That is, well, 8,500 of that went to soil tests on the site. Primarily, that fee went to Activitas to do the designs to get this cost estimate. So we threw complete schematic design, and the drawings are more advanced than that. It includes the cost estimator, and those are the fees that went into it. So the balance of the fees are to complete the drawings and to manage it through construction administration.
So you're saying the drawings, that's not what we saw up here? This is something that we haven't seen? Or
Well,
is
what's
this?
been done today are schematic drawings, enough to get a cost estimate to decide should you want to spend more money and do the detailed drawings.
And what we've been approved to design to date will carry us through a majority of the construction documents, but funding was not approved to carry us through bidding assistance and then construction administration.
So you mentioned the soil sampling. Was it taken in that area? It wasn't because the senior center did one, or was this its own independent?
Well, the advantage of consolidating them, we had one geotechnical engineer go across the whole site. In the next phase, to get the belt and suspenders, we planned to do additional borings exactly where we now know everything is going to sit. When we did the soil borings initially, we didn't know the master plan, but we were trying to understand the general character of the site. So we want to do more exploration and verify that these conditions are for real.
Yeah, because I believe some of the pictures that I saw up there are used from other various contractors, et cetera, that have done projects. So like the glacial deposit things that's available on the internet, it's a stock image kind of thing. So I'm just wondering how much cost was actually put into the proposal that we saw tonight as opposed to?
Well, that's all, I just use that as an example of what that soil is. That has been, there's a full geotechnical report that was done for the town, and that geotechnical report outlines the construction issues, and that was provided to the cost estimators, and that information is incorporated into the Activitas drawings.
I'm just always leery when I see Google Earth images of the site when someone just could have taken them when they were there. It's like, you know what I mean? Like when I see
There's no
that.
excavation of the site, so I couldn't really show that. I showed the pictures of the site initially to show the mat.
Yeah.
I was trying to show the thickness of the mat with the other picture, just to explain when we explain that the surface is removed, there's a cost to remove that, and someone had said, why do you need to remove the soil? And I wanted to show that with that mat, you need to remove that because you can't use it underneath the parking lot for recal or some other place on the site, so.
And we can't fit courts back to back there. I don't know the size, et cetera, but there's no way to fit them because to me that would have saved something, at least on lighting, no matter what.
Well, it doesn't fit because of the wetland border.
You're too close to the buffers.
Yeah, we worked on several different configurations, specifically when we started conversations with the RPVA, because they would have preferred 8 courts. And then, as Joel mentioned, with conversations with Chuck Jerome and the potential impacts to the resource area and within the buffer, we ended up with this. This was the most amount of courts that we could put into the project site.
And then I know we mentioned the concrete or asphalt, et cetera. The biggest thing that we, at least in my opinion, is if we're gonna go ahead and spend the money, we have to be able to pay to maintain it. Asphalt seems like that's, ridiculous to even to go down that avenue. So for me, I would always want to keep the cost in to lower our maintenance cost in the future, because we're not going to spend this money and then not have it maintained. As with every other project, maintenance always seems to get left on the back burner, and then you have Imagination Station gone. So for me, that's obviously, you know, I understand there's some things that we can walk back in here. I think looking at this, my fear is at obviously 1894 town meeting, it's a 2/3 vote. We all know it's not going to pass. It's 2/3. I think for it to pass, it's got to get under 1/5 in any combination of what can get removed on here. I know we might not want it to go from 7 to 6 courts, and the same thing with the lighting. Removing that takes $400,000 off, you're right there. The easy thing is the $40,000 benches. I mean, I think you can take everyone who's in favor of it in this room and they'll buy a bench and call it a day. Like, I don't know why we need $40,000 in benches. You know what I mean? Like, I understand you have to bid it out, do whatever, but like $40,000 in benches doesn't sound,
It's not only benches, there's a,
yeah.
but I agree, I mean, we were given a program, we worked with the pickleball committee, we designed it, we tried to give you the all-inclusive budget, and I tried to give you the cost to save from that all-inclusive budget, so the town can make the decisions. If, you know, I don't want to assume that you don't want something.
Right. And then in terms of the fundraiser, and I know the RPPA's raised $200,000. How legally does that apply in this situation? Can they just do the lights, or they give you the money and then you do the lights, or how does this happen?
Be a gift, we would accept it as a gift.
And then you can spend the money on lights? There's no, you still have to go to bid for the lights? Or is it separate?
Yeah, you can talk.
So they can't get the lights themselves?
No,
Or could they?
they could get like the benches and things like that. That's a little bit different. If they wanted to add the lights to it, we would run that through legal just to make sure if it was a gift that they wouldn't give us the money. They would have to procure it themselves. But it would probably be the same thing and wouldn't necessarily see a huge savings. We have to pay prevailing wage, which is sometimes what you know, those gifts, when they build something separately from us that they don't have to pay, a private entity wouldn't necessarily have to pay, we always have to pay prevailing wage. You know, that's not, I think, a substantive difference in this particular project if they wanted to gift the lights. But we would talk about that. But otherwise, their fundraising that they've done, you know, substantial work for fundraising. They do a great job. And I know that they're considering trying to raise more once this cost came in. Like, the whole effort was, let's see what it would cost to do this. And this is where, you know, we've come to that. And Activitas and BH+A have done an excellent job working with town staff. And you're not seeing it here, but the number of drawings and the detail of you know, underground structures for stormwater and things like that is really something. And I'm happy to share those. But yeah, if they wanted to fundraise and give that as a gift, you know, we would accept it as a gift, and then we would bid it out. Everything in this would get bid out, and market forces would prevail.
One of the things, Jane, that we could do with the lights that we've done in the past is we could procure those through cooperative purchasing program. And then we would still have to bid out the installation. But that's something that we've done with multiple municipalities previously.
All right, Karen, any questions?
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So great presentation, and I appreciate this discussion and some of my colleagues' comments. A number of my questions have been answered, and including the ones about, oh boy, how do we get this number down, and what are we, you know, focusing on priorities. So I appreciate the options and the discussion around the number of courts, the lights, asphalt versus the post-tension slab. I also have questions about the warranties and expected lifespan. Because this is a big number, and I can't help thinking that I wish we had this number in front of us when we were deciding, you know, where to put the field house renovations in the plan. But the questions I still have are, these pickleball courts, are they still usable for tennis? Or, God forbid, pickleball's not that popular and the town wants something else like basketball courts for adult leagues. So how flexible are courts of this size for other purposes?
Yeah, that's a great question. Unfortunately, they're smaller, significantly smaller than a tennis court. And the design we have currently has fencing in between the courts to discourage balls from going one court into the next court's play. So potentially, you know, if you were to kind of resurface everything and remove the fencing in between a couple of the courts, we could rotate them and get a few tennis courts in. But if we were to keep the same layout, you wouldn't be able to get 7 tennis courts or 7 pickleball courts, if my explanation is clear.
Yeah, unfortunate. Okay, well, okay. I thought there was, I'm not either great at tennis or pickleball, so I appreciate you illuminating me. And then, so one of the areas we talked about potential savings is, you know, kind of phasing it in with lights coming later, but pre-wiring, which is, you know, not a bad idea. And I'm trying to get a sense of what are we losing if the town were to go ahead with the project without the lights to begin with? So right now with daylight savings, I think we're about 7 p.m. So you can play, you know, 8 to 7, and then in the middle of the summer you're playing 8 to 9. And I'm trying to figure out how late we would allow. Do we allow 24/7 use of our tennis and pickleball courts?
Tennis, the lights shut off at, I believe, 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the summer. Lights automatically shut off.
Okay, so and for a good, let's just say 2 months, it's like till about 9 anyway. So, all right, well, you know, that's certainly an option to sort of prepare for lights later. That might be one way to make this more palatable, as would maybe a smaller number of courts. So I do appreciate the team. Love the the geology slides. That's super helpful, and I love these options because this is definitely a bigger number than I was expecting. And then one question I did have, our soil removal has always been more expensive than we appreciated in our previous projects, and I just wanted to ask Joel if at this point, are you very, very confident that we're not going to run into arsenic or something else that will significantly increase our the 12-inch layer removal?
As part of the ReCal project, we had the entire site tested by an environmental firm, and the tests came back negative.
Okay, great. That's reassuring. We talked about, and here's another question. So many projects these days in different parts of the country use pavers rather than asphalt. And I'm just wondering, generally, where do pavers fall versus this high-end concrete versus asphalt?
So pavers, whether they be concrete pavers or some other type, unfortunately with the there's irregularities.
Yeah, not board, but like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean the walkways and.
Yeah, I certainly, I can't expect people to be running around a court with little.
Yeah, okay. For the walkways, typically pavers are a higher cost construction method than concrete or asphalt.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's helpful.
Although I love them. It makes it a very nice finish.
Well, they're durable, they can be repaired, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's good to know. Okay, I think that's it. I appreciate the job you guys did tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have much to add then. I think we're all a little bit, not surprised, but, you know, taken aback. And it's like Jane said, prevailing wage. And there's a lot goes into this. We're not resurfacing something. We're building ground up. But I think we're going to have a decision to make as a board and with our PPA's guidance whether to put this on the April warrant or not. This is not a discussion for tonight, but this was good to have in front of us. I can see a savings of, $300,000 doing the lights later and, the benches and the wants, not the needs. So for me, I'm looking at this as 1.6 right now instead of 1.9. If you take away a court, it gets closer to 1.4. I know that's not ideal. If we did 7 or 8 courts, I forget who said it, but we would be one of the leaders in our area for that number of courts on one site. That's what you see in the south, and that's what you see in warmer climates. Most communities have 4 to 6, but it'd be great if we had more. I think, when we close the warrant, we're gonna decide if this is gonna be an article or not, and to see and hopefully have a better number, Jane, so we can decide.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so
Yes, sir.
Voting tonight.
We're closing the warrant tonight. We can leave it on the warrant, for now and still work on numbers for the background. And if we decide to pull it at a later time, we can always pull it. But the warrant has to be closed tonight
Right.
legally, so.
I was thinking of the special.
Yeah, that's different.
That's different.
Special election, yeah. So that's gonna be decided, a couple agenda items.
Can I ask one quick
Yeah,
question?
yeah.
Did you guys do the sandwich project, or what did those courts cost, and did they do the concrete?
They did not do the concrete, they did asphalt.
And so
I
they
don't have a
were
breakdown on
less, okay. Because I was just doing a little quick research, and I know that Greenfield just finished 6 courts this fall, and they were at like 760,000 for 6 courts, just slightly over $1 million with lights. So I didn't know if you know anything about what, I mean, that's a big swing for us.
Again,
6
you know,
courts.
if you isolate the courts and the lights from all the soft costs and the other things that go into it, that's the problem with comparing what's done here with what we're proposing. What we're trying to propose is everything in, all the design fees, the testing, everything that the town has to do.
We shouldn't have to do any more testing, right? We said we should
During
do.
construction, there's concrete testing, there's soil testing to make sure that what the contractor puts in is what's in the specification to make sure that it doesn't fail, that there's,
The concrete, but soil testing we should be done with, right?
well, the soil testing for the bearing, but when they go in and proof roll the site and then they put gravel in on top of that before they pour the slab, you want to go in and test the strength of that to make sure that that's adequate and meets the specification, because if it doesn't, it's too late to change it later. So those costs it's not a huge cost, but I'm just saying there are a lot of small things that go in to add to the cost. So the all-in construction cost for this was 1.5 million.
Yeah.
The rest is the soft costs. If you back out the numbers that were talked about, it gets you closer to that Greenfield for construction cost.
Can we break down those construction costs maybe a little better of the 1.5 million of what that looks like?
Yeah,
We could do that. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, we can do that.
Thank you.
Another question, and I don't know that this is gonna have a big cost impact, but with all these projects, is RMLD involved in the discussions? Do they know what's coming, the municipal light department? Because, I see there's a transformer cost and we're talking about lighting and all sorts of other things, and with Retail there's potentially solar or solar ready. They ought to be a part of the discussion at least.
We have had some discussions that we put in the cost for the transformer. If both of them pass, you don't need the transformer at the pickleball courts because we can come off the recount transformer. But if they don't, you need a separate transformer for pickleball. So I wanted to include it because I don't know if you, but I could be more explicit with the number breakdown so you can understand those, because there's potential savings once the future is clearer.
Got it. Okay, so that's part of the answer. The other part, I would just encourage that, not as a criticism at all, but just as we're thinking forward and taking these projects and talking about things that require power, we gotta just talk to the light department too. Just have them be a partner in the discussion. At minimum, no, but even better, see what they may be able to do to assist.
Well, we did make the inquiry, someone's gotta pay for the transformer, it's the municipal line, so we wanted to have the budget, so someone could pay for it.
Makes sense to have it here. I got it. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, these are two separate projects, from the perspective of, if ReCal doesn't pass, we could still do pickleball. I don't think we're gonna do pickleball. I think it makes more sense to do them together, but if you add these two together, even the way they are now, we're still under 30 million. So, but I think with the savings of doing them to, this town meeting, between the two massive projects, then adding this, and we don't get this lower, concerns me as far as what the community's appetite will be for all this expense and all this debt. But I think when you put these two projects together on that site, it makes so much sense. I mean, most of the people that I play with are, I'm gonna say 50 plus, all right? Some in their 40s and 30s, and the majority that much older. Most of the people I've met in Reading and where I started my pickleball journey with a lot of people in this room are 60 plus. And that's a big, big segment of the pickleball community across the country. So to me, these go kind of hand in hand. That's the perfect site. We determined that years ago for pickleball. We determined that this is the site for the Active Living Center. So these two should go kind of hand in hand, even though they are separate items. So as much as the cost is a shock, I was glad to hear that if they both get approved, we save at a minimum a couple $100,000, correct? On doing them at the same time. Is that what I heard?
I put that into the budget already.
Yeah,
We've accounted for that, yes.
You've accounted that, so.
Yes.
But if we did them together, that could come off. No, okay, just want to be
We
clear.
only saved 20 grand on a transformer.
No, okay, so
It's
the
actually less expensive to do them separate.
Yeah, because when it's part
other way
of-
around, okay, that's why I'm asking, thank you. That's why I wanted to get that clear, okay. Yeah, we're gonna move on, thank you for the presentation, get better.
I just had one of them.
Oh, go ahead, Chris, sorry.
So I know we have like 400 something thousand in the Burbank fund or something, unless I'm making this number up, but I don't think I am. What are we doing with the money? Can we not use that for a part of this? Or is it part of it already that you're gonna do, or what is the money gonna get used for? It's right next to the Burbank building.
Right.
Like,
We have not pursued a funding mechanism through the Burbank Fund. We can look into that. They've been such excellent partners of the town over the years, and given back to the community tremendously. I know that the Burbank board has been interested in funding programs that are adaptive in town. And so that's been a really important goal for that organization, and that's sort of what they wanted us to do. But it's a great question. We are happy to talk to that organization.
do you have a number on how much the adaptive sports were gonna end up being? Is it a couple $100 grand, 10 grand, like what ballpark?
I don't have that this evening. That's a great question.
Because I wouldn't want to leapfrog them, but if it's like 10 grand, 20 grand, like, I know year over year over year, you're gonna need it kind of thing, but anything to lower this number down, if we knocked off a court as well as the lighting, you get it to 1.5, Burbank's 400 grand, you're at 1.1, like, I know I'm just throwing the numbers out there, even if it's 300 grand. Fundraising absolutely is gonna happen, I know that. Like, all this has to do is get approved, and I'm sure there's, someone's gonna have a light named after them, essentially, with however
bulb.
money. A what?
A bulb.
A bulb? It's an LED now, Mark, you're gonna get up with the
Still a bulb.
times. I
Still
don't
a
think it
bulb.
is, I think it's a cell. It's a cell named after them.
All right, let's go.
All right, but that's just another option.
Just a question, can we ask Sharon, I thought I saw her here before.
She's on the
Oh,
Zoom.
Sharon, I thought that those funds actually are kind of included in free cash already. Is that not right?
No,
It's a separate fund.
The Burbank Fund is its own separate fund. It's got I think about 400,000 in it, and it could be used for whatever we choose. So it could be used towards this project for pickleball or for anything we decide to use it towards.
Awesome. And when we look at our total position of available unspent resources for the town, when you put your little graph together, it takes free cash and all the other funds that we have. Is it included in that number? It's not.
So when I show you the graphs, I'm talking about stabilization funds, free cash, FinCom reserves. Those are the things that are considered reserves that appear on that graph I always provide you guys. This fund is entirely separate, and we can, utilize it for whatever the community sees fit to use it for.
Smiling, Mark. You are smiling. You winked. I got a wink.
Wink and a smile.
I got a wink.
At some point, it'd be great to, and I know that part of the request for Commissioner of Trust is to understand all of the different funds that exist in all the different places so that we really have a handle on kind of what the real total is and where it's designated. So, because things like that are perhaps a great opportunity.
I think we just got close to a yes. Okay.
I want to thank you for giving some numbers and some feedback. This is very helpful as we work with RPPA and the design team, having that kind of guidance, because we didn't know what that number was going to be. This has been an exercise, and I did ask that both projects stand on their own 2 feet. And so we knew there would be some redundancies there, but we wanted them to be honestly represented to the community so that if one passed and the other, we agree both would be great to pass together. We think that's the right answer for the site. But if one were to go, the other, we will see maybe some savings in, underground, preparation for stormwater, things like that, the transformer. I did ask for those to stand on their own 2 feet. So we appreciate this feedback. I think it's really helpful.
No, thanks. I think this was really helpful because I'm glad we waited and I didn't do it 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
To have all this
Yes.
kind of up-to-date data. All right, are we good? Karen, you good? Move on? All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Joel. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Have a
Thanks,
great
Mark. Thank you.
All
Thanks,
right.
Ryan. Thanks, Jim.
Next
Thanks,
on the
Jenna.
agenda is hopefully a brief discussion, and we talked about this last week. We went over the hard numbers, the design, the building itself, and then we kind of put this on there. I'm not going to call out Mark, but Mark was kind of pushing for this, and I kind of pushed back a little bit when I met with Matt. I'm like, I know we don't need this, but it's kind of a symbolic. It's a symbol. No, we don't need it officially. Sorry, let me backtrack. We don't need this officially.
Can I actually ask a question?
Yeah.
I do find it odd that we're voting on this when we're not voting on the Killam project, correct? I feel
School
like-
committee, I believe, didn't they?
Did they? Did school committee vote on the Killam project? Not that I'm aware of, I'm their liaison, I listen frequently.
If they haven't yet, I suspect that they will, but I
just
can't speak to that.
For me, I don't think it's appropriate for us to vote on this, because then we're pitting projects, and I really don't love that for the town at all. I mean, we're putting it on the town warrant, and I think that's the appropriate thing to do. That's my opinion.
So actually, we'll have to vote separately to put on the warrant. That's actually a separate.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
understand. Yeah, exactly, for the special.
I think so. This board had to weigh in as it relates to the project in general, the spending of funds, the allocation of ARPA monies, the designation of the site, selection of the site, establishing the permanent building committee's activities on this as well. So.
But I don't think we voted on any of them. We weighed in, but I
We
don't.
voted on the site.
We voted on the ARPA money, we voted on the permanent building committee, we voted on the site, all three. So I've been thinking that it makes sense to kind of take the next step, which is to indicate to the community, on this project from the town perspective, that it is a priority, it's something that this board feels is something that is rolling forward to town meeting and the voters. And I would suspect that the same activities would make sense on the school side through school committee, town meeting, and voters as well. So, I mean, the advocates, if you will, so we are the advocate that brought it to the permanent building the Recal project.
Yep.
And the advocate, I believe, that brought the Killam project forward would definitely have to have been the school committee to make it a school building project.
But I don't think that, I guess I don't know for a fact, but I don't think school committee votes on it. Because
It wasn't brought up at Killam, so I would assume it would have been brought up, but I could be wrong.
I don't know the answer to that
I don't either.
definitively.
Chris?
Thanks, Carla. I had the same inclination when I saw this on here. I understand we've always been saying it's an and, not an either or, et cetera. It's, Killam and the Recal projects are both priorities for this town. I think ad nauseum, we've been up here supporting it. It's been on, at least the Recal thing has been on our agenda. I don't know how many times. Killam, not so much, but, is what it is, I guess. I've already said that I'm in support of this, et cetera. I thought that the way that we would vote is how we've always done it in the past, which is when it goes on the warrant, how we're gonna vote to close the town warrant next. We're gonna be in the same position where it's gonna be pickleball or something else if we wanna pull something out. But the next warrant, we have the luxury of having it be Killam and the Recal project being on it, and then we can do the same thing then. I understand, I guess, when would that vote actually take place, Matt?
April 1st?
April 1st, yeah.
April 1st.
For the Killam
Yeah.
and Recal together?
Yeah, for that special town meeting warrant, was that on April 1st?
So
Was it?
Yeah.
election too.
And you would call the election that night as well.
yeah. So I guess I'd be somewhat symbolic if you weren't here, Mark. You know what I mean? Like if we were gonna be voting April 15th and, you've committed a lot to this, and to not have this, I could understand. But if we can wait till April 1st, that's when we're gonna do it. So you're gonna be here, and that's kind of where I'm at. God willing, yes. Sorry. My other point is, we're gonna have all these other forums. I wrote down everything everyone was mentioning this whole time. The FinCom forums, April 2nd and 16th, and all these other forums that are taking place. Like, I just think it's better to just vote on the town warrant, and But like I said, I'm in support of the project anyway. I haven't said I'm not. So it's just where I'm at.
We've done symbolic votes before, right? And it's informal, so I want to respect our process that we've gone through, and the Council on Aging and the Recalc Committee and everything else. So this is a culmination of that. If I don't want to put this to a vote and any of us vote no. I think that's a horrible look for us. So I don't want to do that, and I don't, and so it's not an official vote, and it's just kind of like, and I get it's good. We're going to vote on it April 1st. I totally get it. Not vote on it, but put it on the warrant, which in essentially is a vote of support, right? Because we're the body that approves the warrant. But I'm happy to do what the majority of the board wants, but I really don't want to put it to a vote and have anybody vote no. I don't know how you feel about that, Mark, because I don't feel good about that.
I think it makes sense to continue to show that both projects are priorities, that the leadership of this community feels strongly that that's the case. I want to make sure that there's the opportunity for that to happen. Some past boards actually not only voted to put things on the warrant, but they also voted each individual article as a board. We haven't done that in a fair amount of time. But that's how, at one point at least, it was done. And again, I'm not sure where we want to go here. I think it is important to share with the community how we feel about it, beyond just saying, oh, okay, it's okay to put it on the warrant. Whether that is a vote or it's a sense of the board, if you will, some way of kind of sharing that information other than a formal vote is fine also. I just think that we should be clear with the community where we stand. We are the leaders of the town. We are the leadership of this community. And we need to make it clear what we're bringing forward and why, so that there's not a question.
No, I agree, and Chris stated he's in full support, I'm in full support, I'll speak for myself. Karen, if you wanna chime in, I'm assuming you're in full support?
I love this project. This is an interesting discussion to listen to. I'm in full support of this project. And we do normally, and either way, the select board, I think, needs to have a vote, either a specific warrant item vote, because I can already see my fellow town meeting members asking, how did select board members vote on this warrant article? So that's one thing. Whether this vote needs to happen tonight or whether it could happen after a town meeting approval as an additional, whether that's okay, that would be another option as well. So I worry about the divisiveness in this community, and if we're not gonna have a 5-0 vote in support of this, then I prefer us not to do it.
Well, I wanna be,
Personally,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm fully in support of this project.
I wanna be clear, I'm not saying I don't support this project, and I feel like this is where our conversation was going.
No.
I just wanna be very clear, it's not that I don't support this project, I just think it's odd that we're voting on something that really, why?
Yeah.
We're gonna support it and put it on for a special election, like, I just don't think that there's a need for a vote, that's all. I've said it for 10, 11, actually probably longer, considering my time running. I support both projects, we need solutions for both of these situations. So I just wanna make it clear that I'm not saying I don't support the project, but I just don't think it's appropriate to vote on it right now.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat, and we can do it on the 1st. Mark is still here, and that would be the only reason that I would think that it would warrant it now if he was not. He will be here on the 1st, God willing. And I think that we can just do a thing. He said that first, not me.
I would,
Look at me.
because just if we do that, again, simply putting on the warrant is an action, but I think support is another action.
Absolutely, like, you know, it's not gonna be like, all right, all those in favor, aye, okay, it's not gonna be that. I'm sure, you know, we're gonna have.
It's only 2 items that are gonna be.
Correct.
2 articles, so I think, I'm not saying I'm changing my mind, but I think that it would be good to have a symbolic vote, but I also can see where this is coming from, this discussion, and I don't wanna disparage anybody. So I think we all get a sense, and everybody here in the room gets a sense that we all support this project. We're all glad that it came under 30 million. We're all glad that pickleball potentially is gonna be right next to the building for that population and the rest of the community. So, it sounds like we don't have to, but I don't have the chair right now, but I don't wanna have to decide, so, but I guess I'm gonna have to, but, I'm looking at you mostly because, I've talked about it, but.
Yeah, and tomorrow night we have a FinCom meeting,
Right.
right? And there'll be presentations made to FinCom, and I think, expectations on the members of FinCom in terms of, okay, well, where are the boards? And again, I can't answer on the school committee because I don't know if they've discussed it or voted it or not, but I just think it's a much stronger look if we're on board that way.
But it's gotta be together with Kellum. That's at least.
And it's, I'd be fine voting for both, but we don't have that on our agenda tonight.
Oh, no, but I
so-
think on April 1st, I think that's where Chris is
Yeah.
going, it's more, it kind of makes more sense because even though it's not our project, this board's project, it is a very big town project that we know needs to be done. And that goes the same here, so for our town project, let's call it, the boards. So I think that'd be the better place to do it. I didn't really think ahead too much. When I meet with Matt and Jane, it's kind of like, yeah, I look at future agendas, but I really focus on this agenda. And, I was going by that it was already on there. from the previous time, and I'm like, okay, it makes sense. And then we were finalizing the agenda, like, do we really need this? You know, Caitlin asked me, I'm like, no, not officially, we don't really need it, but, you know, so shame on me, I guess. I could have just took it off and had it.
So would it be comfortable to, on April 1st, have an agenda item that, number one, obviously, is to close the warrant for the special, and then to kind of, I'll call it a leadership vote to talk about supporting both projects.
I think that's reasonable. And fair. I agree. All right, wow.
Do it.
It only took 10 minutes. That wasn't bad. I'm proud of us. I am. All right. I am going to take a 5-minute recess, or we're all going to take a 5-minute recess. And
It's very hot.
o'clock, you on the hallway.
You guys
Great.
Thank
You didn't want to beat it, Mary Ann.
I'd love to see the breakdown of that 1.5. Certainly is an ouch.
Is that the culprit?
No, was it not?
Yeah, so it was just because the door was
I can't vote on the Haven thing.
13. All right, guys, we're back in session. Next, we are closing the warrant. We have, how many? 16, something?
Yeah, so I just wanted to draw your attention to one, so the warrant is the same as when I previewed it last 2 weeks ago. There's one additional article I put in your packet, a letter from an attorney, and we added the article on. It's regarding a drainage easement that's no longer needed by the town. He's asked us to modify it because he has a building project. The benefit for the town, though, is his building project, if we were to modify the easement, the building would be further away from wetlands, which we like. And he's also offered to pay our attorney's fees and appraisal fee. So there's a letter from Attorney Galvin in the packet explaining it all. And I had town council draft an article. I said that I would bring it to the select board and see. The letter didn't come to me until late last year. I had to have town council and engineering, take a look to see if we really needed the drainage easement. I think Ryan is on if there's any questions as well regarding it, but it turns out we don't need all of the easement, so we could modify it, but it would take a town meeting vote, so.
Okay, and Ryan, like you said, is.
Ryan's
this over?
on still, and he's, he could speak for himself, but he looked at it and he agreed, so.
Any questions from the board? Because
So that was the additional article.
Was there anything that Andrea brought up in terms of things that we need to be aware of once, we wouldn't be giving up the entire easement, right?
No, we're
Just
not
that
giving up the
section.
entire easement, and she really sort of deferred to Ryan, and Andrew looked at it too, to see if there was any town use for it. We don't want to give up something that we need, but it doesn't look like we're gonna need it, we don't need all of it. And so it would help him, and it would help us in a way to get the building away from the wetlands, so, because he could still build there, but he would have to build closer to the wetlands, and, it's explained in the letter, so.
Ryan's looking over your shoulder.
Oh, Ryan, did I explain that okay, or you want to add anything to that?
Perfect. You're going to make an excellent engineer for me.
Excellent. We're looking for an assistant engineer. I might apply.
You have an opening?
We do.
We have several.
Yeah.
No, Matt explained it perfectly. There was an easement that was drafted back in 1985, 86, best that we can gather. And the expansion of the roadway and the build out for the lot never happened. Doesn't look like it is going to happen with that building being there. And so it would make his project better and make it better for the environment if we reduce that or modify that easement.
So that was the only change. Otherwise, it's exactly the same as what I spoke about a few weeks ago in terms of the warrant articles. So we can pleasure the board at this point.
Yeah, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna vote on the warrant, pull 13 out,
Okay.
vote on the warrant without 13, and then vote on 13. So let's, what should we do first? That doesn't really matter, right? What would you do first?
I guess I just had discussion thing real quick. So I know we have the funding for pickleball. I guess I get the sense that we're all not okay with 1.9 million. But if we can come down significantly, then we would be, kind of thing. That's kind of the court that I'm in. I know by us voting to put it on there and go forward to town meeting, by then more numbers might be refined.
Yeah, we can table it.
Consolations might come
continue
out, et cetera, and then, or we leave it as is, and then on the floor, town meeting cuts the stuff back and they realize that, people took some cuts to make this happen, as opposed to us cutting it down in advance, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's almost better if town meeting itself cuts things down, if so chooses. I'm not gonna vote on that then, but maybe I will, probably not, but if history repeats itself for the 7th time in a row. So I'm kind of, we'll leave it up to them, see what they want to do. But, I think I got the sense that, that this number doesn't work for us. But that doesn't mean it doesn't by then or what could happen.
Give me the motions.
Just to say, I mean, strangely or accurately, when we vote to put things on the warrant, in many cases, the numbers aren't yet finalized. And they're, in a sense, that's that idea of almost 2 votes. So I'm going to put it on the warrant, and there's a vote that discusses the amount of money that's being used, or potentially the sources of funding or whatever. But the articles have to go in, they have to have kind of the full, kind of everything in terms of specific, like, money has to come from borrowings, whatever, free cash, yada, yada, the whole thing. So, I think there's kind of our own discussion that can take place separately when we have more information. And on the town meeting floor, there'll be something presented. Probably it's best if there's pretty close agreement by people in terms of what it is, and then town meeting decides what they're gonna do.
Yeah. I think I said today at the meeting that this should be part of the April
Second special. So that would mean take it off of this.
No, I mean part of the discussion, not part of.
Oh, okay, so,
Yeah.
right, so
Yeah.
just a separate discussion,
Yeah, yeah.
not related to warrant.
Right, not really, yeah, right.
Got it.
I only brought this up, Mark, because if the select board is the sponsor of it, and this doesn't say who's the sponsor, then we technically could remove it if we wanted to. That's why I brought it up.
Right.
Point of information, that was my question, I'm not seeing the warrant, who is the sponsor of this article?
Right now it's blank.
It's the select.
It is us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the articles are sponsored by us.
Yeah, it just needs to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can
It
change.
doesn't say anything, Karen, in the packet, but it is us.
Yeah, page 55, you can see it, Karen? 55 in the book, in the, sorry. Thank you. Packet.
I was looking at the packet online, I didn't see it, but thank you.
No, she's right. It's, the sponsor isn't there. It's in the packet, the sponsor for funding for pickleball, the lead replacement program, and CPDC floodplain bylaw amendments are not, they don't have the sponsor next to them. Some have it to the right, but this one doesn't have it either.
Yeah.
So,
Are they in the book, actually? We don't have the book.
The book? No.
No, not the book, but just even here, here it is. So
Yeah, I was gonna say it's up there.
13, 14, 15,
Yeah.
16.
okay, all right,
Yeah,
so it's
it's
not
up
in the,
there,
it's
yeah.
not in the cheat sheet.
No,
It's not on
yeah,
the cheat sheet.
It's not part of the warrant, that's just for us.
Yeah.
But in the warrant itself, yes.
That's where I was looking,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yep, sorry about that.
All right, so I'm gonna make the motion,
Just in case things change.
I'm gonna make the motion to move to close the annual town meeting warrant consisting of 18 articles to take place on April 28th, 2025, and exclude Article 13
From this vote.
from this vote.
Second.
Second, thank you. Karen,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Carl, yes. Okay, so Chris is leaving the room. We are going to have,
Sorry, so we're not gonna act on that motion?
13, no, we're gonna vote, Chris is gonna recuse himself from 13 because it's Haven Street.
So,
Sorry.
okay, so we need a motion on 13.
13, yeah.
Got it,
Right,
sorry.
So move to close the annual town meeting warrant, which include, I have to phrase this differently. Move to close the annual town meeting warrant with Article 13 included to take place on April 28th, 2025.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Article 13? No. Karen?
Are you looking for a vote or?
Yeah,
just-
vote. Any discussion, any discussion?
So I actually,
Yep.
can I do, bring, so.
Yeah.
So, all right, back to the, so, discussion, not discussion. I think that we should, and we do have on our
agenda in 2 weeks or 4 weeks? Which agenda do we have the discussion of town priorities? In capital,
I think it's
the next meeting.
Next meeting.
Okay, yeah, so I am having a lot of questions about how much we do on that project without having more discussion on town priorities. So I'm fine having it on the warrant at this point because we have a meeting set up in 2 weeks to talk more about it.
Okay. All right, do we have a second? I think we had a second.
Second. Yep.
Any discussion? Mark did some discussion. Karen, we're ready for the vote now. We do roll call vote. Karen?
What is the, just putting down
Approve 13,
warrant?
yeah.
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Carlo? Yes. Okay, all set.
Right. And so I'm gonna send around the paperwork to sign for the warrant.
Okay.
So that Laura can post it.
Okay, next, where are we?
Just a question, just to close the circle here. We had a motion that got seconded for the entire warrant
Without
without
13.
13.
And then we voted on 13.
Then we voted on 13. So we haven't voted on the full warrant.
We did that for the first one. We voted on 17 of the articles.
Okay,
That
so
counts?
did we actually vote on that one?
We
Sorry.
did, yeah. I pulled out
Got it.
13. Yeah, it's hard.
I'm with you.
I'm faint soon.
Today is Tuesday, right?
I'm gonna faint soon, yeah. All right, next on the agenda is retreat discussion. We have been talking about this, and I'm just gonna start off by saying, I think if we do have a retreat, it should be after the election. It's kind of the only comment I have. I think we should have one. It's been a while. I know we discussed it many months ago, but, so that's all I'm gonna say. I think I just put it on there as a placeholder to see, we can agree on a date now, or we can say, okay, we commit to having a retreat within the first few months of the election after we do liaisons and, do after the reorg, and I think that's the better time to do it than do a pre. Right, so if anyone has any, Karen, you have your hand up, good?
Yeah, I would agree that this is not a good time to speak about that, but we should take it up after the election.
Okay, we're all good?
I think it's going the log ride with Mark, but it is what it is.
We're going to Canopy, Mark, sorry.
Yeah.
Canopy.
Oh, well.
Splash Mountain.
Timing is everything.
Splash Mountain.
I mean, Mark could come in his spare time if he wanted
Yeah,
to.
they could. yeah.
Be our plus
He
one.
could drive us.
Yeah.
You could be the facilitator.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
Lead the group.
All right, enough of that fun. All right, we do this every year. We do this every year. Everybody vote on the intermunicipal agreement. It's in our packet. It's with Wakefield. I'll be honest, I didn't read through it. I'm assuming it's exactly the same as last year.
It's the same. It's for animal control. We share
Yeah.
with Wakefield. It's been working well. I talked to a Day, who animal control comes under the health department. He said it's been working well. When money gets better sometime in the future, people may want our own, dedicated animal control officer, which we've only had part-time and shared with Wakefield for years, but because there's other issues in, say, Town Forest or Birch Meadow or whatever, but this is working out well, and so we would ask for it to be extended. It actually, if you look at the dates on it, it's over. It should have been done a few months ago, but there was a little holdup on the Wakefield side, so we have it ready to go tonight.
Okay.
It should be fine.
Any other?
My question is, so in regards to the town forest incidents, whatever scenario,
Right.
why would this individual have not been a part of it, or were they and I just didn't know it?
Well, I mean, if it's a animal incident at the time, so that was more regarding a recent, bylaw that was passed, and it was talked about at the time that the enforcement on that was more going to be public awareness and whatnot. So the police department and the health department weren't, prepared to enforce that unless it was a criminal aspect at the police department or something regarding a dangerous dog that would necessitate an animal control complaint. That was neither really. What it turned out to be was something different.
I guess my thoughts are, if someone has unleashed dogs or whatever scenario, I don't know how that does not fall under animal control. Like, what else is he doing? Just if there's a dead animal or something, they're taking care of it?
They
Like,
do that, yeah.
what about off-leash dogs? If you create a non-symbolic bylaw scenario, why are they not taking care of this?
They would take care of an off-leash dog. That incident was in the town forest, and there was a recent bylaw change on that hadn't gone into effect yet. So I think there was a misunderstanding by some of the people, the participants there. But
6 months from now,
yeah.
that could be the case, though, that animal control would handle incidents of, not just at the town forest,
Right.
some, dog, I don't know, like, do they handle if someone's dog bites somebody else? Like,
They handle dog bite complaints, anything regarding animals. The whole off-leash dog, because, like I said, the town forest was a little bit different. So, and I'm not sure that they were even called on that one. I think they directly called the police on that case, because that was a little bit more. So,
I just think it's more for clarity in the future. Like, I know we designed signs to say,
Yeah.
please don't do this, and we
Right.
can't really enforce this, and we made nice signs just to say we can't do anything. Why isn't this dude's number on the sign and call it a day?
Right. We did put something on we have an order in for the signs. Do you know if they went up yet, the signs?
I don't think they've gone up yet.
But it's not a number, but it's, I think it was.
No, we do have a phone number. We have a dedicated phone number.
Okay.
We have a dedicated phone number, and we have a dedicated email, and we're creating a complaint system for people to lodge complaints that we can track in the town forest. One of the big challenges, if I may, in this area is that by the time an incident has happened, these are on-call animal control officers. They're not patrolling or anything like that, and we share them with another town. So, and I think in these particular kinds of incidents are not included in their scope of work if you look at the contract. So we can, in the police department, can't really enforce these either. Usually these situations are over and done with by the time anybody can get out to the forest to respond, depending on where they are. In that particular case that I think you're referring to, somebody went to the police department and lodged a complaint and they investigated. So
I'm just thinking proactively for the future, though. Like anything, I would think that this would be covered. It's not in the contract, though. So I think in the future, I know we have to do this now, I think it would have to be. Why did we go and do all of this just to have ambiguity and self-policing of nothingness, where nothing has any bite to it? So in the future, maybe it gets added and it's 10 grand more.
Right.
It is what it is, but we need
Says
something.
that they'll enforce Reading's applicable bylaws, and so if we have a bylaw on it, then they will enforce it.
Oh, all right. Well, it sounds good to me.
Yeah.
So if I could just follow up on that, I think that's an important point. If it's not in their scope of duties to have anything to do with it, I think maybe that needs to get modified. And then the second piece would be, given that it's a hard thing to enforce, would it make sense to have them do occasional drive-bys and just kind of show their face a little bit? And maybe if there's a report of a problem that takes place on Tuesdays at 10 a.m., maybe that's a good time to drive by.
Yeah.
But just to have some
We would have
activity.
to obviously pay for the drive-bys, but because they're per diem, we could call them out and see if they can drive by and see.
Yeah, I think it's got to be somebody.
Yeah.
And if feels like it's a little bit of this right now, but it sounds like it should be the animal control officer. And if we had a dedicated animal control officer, that's probably part of what that person would be doing.
Probably.
think it's worth highlighting it a little bit, just
Okay.
even
No,
if it's
yeah,
just
I'll
for
take it
show,
up.
to get it started.
I'll talk to Dave.
I don't think we're at a dedicated spot, obviously, at this point, but something, like you just meant, something has to happen.
Yeah, no, I think the bylaws were changed for a reason, and there needs to be some way of addressing things.
Karen?
Thank you. Yeah, before we leave this topic, Matt, I feel like aside from the incidents in the town forest and new bylaws that we all have to get used to, I feel like there are still a lot of residents who feel like when people are off leash and dogs are off leash and menacing residents, and we have a leash law, that there's nowhere for them to turn to get help. So, and there are a lot more dogs post-COVID than there were even before. And frankly, my entire existence in Reading, I've never been able to get help from an animal control officer when being menaced by an off-leash dog on my own property in my backyard. So what can we do to, the database that Jane was talking about sounds great, and a mechanism for follow-up, because I love regionalization, sharing's great, but there needs to be a circle of follow-up so that people know that I can report an incident, I can report a leash law violation, I can report a dog, running wildly and scaring people, if that's the case may be, and know that they're gonna get a call back. So how do we do that?
Well, I think that goes to what we were talking about earlier. Also, See Click Fix. You could put complaints in there about dogs, and we'll get a follow up. It's hard where it happens, and then it's hard to get somebody out there right away while it's happening. So it might be happening 2 minutes later, it's resolved. It takes us a while to get the animal control person out there, but we still want to know about it. So I would say either an email to Health Department or See Click Fix, where we can document it and look into it further, would be the best avenue.
Thank you. Do either of you know, or anybody, I don't recall if there is a animal control issue that you can select in See Click Fix now? If there isn't, could we put one in there?
Yep, we have a dog complaint one in there, and if you put something in, like a perpetually barking dog, people complain about a neighbor's dog barking, for instance, it will give you an automated message that says, call the police department non-emergency line. And the police department has requested they get those non-emergency calls in the moment, and they will drive over, they'll send somebody out and they'll investigate it. They don't want that particular kind of complaint in See Click Fix, because by the time somebody looks at it, the dog's not barking anymore because it's an hour later or something like that. So they do want to know stuff like that. So we have it automated to tell the person who puts that complaint in. The real challenging issue is enforcing the only 2 dogs off leash in the forest. The police department, the Massachusetts state law says dogs have to be on leashes. So we have this exception to the state law, which makes it hard to enforce for the police department. If somebody is encountering an off-leash dog, not in the town forest, and particularly if you're feeling threatened by that dog, certainly talk to the owner, but you can call a non-emergency line that is available too. Or you can call the health department, animal control, and let us know that you had this encounter. We have this line established. We'll make sure that we highlight that on social media and get that news out there. But yeah, you can call and we will then know, as you said, okay, somebody's walking dogs off leash on school property or in town cemeteries. You can't walk dogs in cemeteries. We've had staff bitten before by off leash dogs, not in the forest. So, it's certainly a concern that we want to be able to address.
All right, are we good? Motion?
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Move to approve the intermunicipal agreement between the town of Reading and the town of Wakefield for animal control services as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none. Karen?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Carlo, yes. All right, next we have master plan pre-discussion, meaning how do we move this forward and not just talk about it anymore. And Time to shine, Mark.
So, to your point, so time to move it forward. I think that there are a lot of things that are going on in the community now and going forward that would benefit from kind of having this guiding document in the form of a master plan. I think even as we think about the MBTA turnaround track, that's actually a really good example in a lot of ways also, because we're trying to guide what we want to have happen and how we want to support it. And again, back to priorities on capital, that relates to that also, how we might want to use it. So I think the master plan starts out being pretty all-encompassing in terms of what it's thinking about. Starting maybe from the plan that was done, was it 15, 20 years ago?
2005.
That was about 20 years ago, literally. Yeah, which is, obviously way out of date. The community is different. The community has a lot of different things it wants to and needs to accomplish. I think setting up what I think here is you definitely want a citizens committee to come in. I've already heard from some people that are interested in participating. To kind of get together and start talking about, okay, what's the breadth, what kind of level of detail does it go into, but it needs to represent kind of what we want for this community, where it needs to head. I think it starts with a guiding document from this board and goes into a committee structure, and then they come back with probably a couple of in-between activities. Sorry, I'm just kind of putting it together in my head right now. One of which is coming back saying, okay, we think that this is the appropriate scope based on what you said. These are the kinds of things that we'd explore in more depth, and kind of go back and dig in, and then keep coming back with some pieces to that. I think it would be great to find a grant, probably for MAPC, to participate in the process. I believe they did last time. I think that'd be a great way to do it. These are folks that have done it for lots and lots of communities. They have a lot of expertise in it. They can guide us on kind of how all that flows. Obviously, we'd have to go forward and seek that out pretty quickly, see what's going on to do that. But I think this is a big kind of community-wide effort, guided by this board, obviously, but encouraging community input into these different pieces so that we know what we're trying to accomplish. We're in coordination with other groups. I think that the priorities are kind of clear in terms of what we want to get done. Maybe there are 4 or 5 big buckets that we work on.
Do you recall from 20 years ago, was it a committee or did the board?
I recall
Take it on.
MAPC.
Yeah, okay.
And I don't.
Was it CPDC that, because they?
Yeah, how do we want to organize this the best way?
So I would suggest that we talk to CPDC now and kind of put thinking together a little bit in terms of what would be really helpful to them in terms of what they need to put forward, as well as what we're looking for as a community. I think that's the other group. There's discussion of I discourage them calling the facilities thing a master plan by itself, because I think that's going to cause a lot of confusion.
We're talking about school buildings too. We're talking about the whole town.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Any
right,
school building.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Town building,
maintenance.
school building, whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All of the above. So I think you want to get that breadth involved just to make sure that we're kind of working on the right stuff and no one gets blindsided by it. So I think you probably want to have someone from RMLD participate, truthfully, or excuse me, from the commissioners participate.
So maybe would a good exercise for us be to get the old master plan, get it in the packet for everyone else to see, because it's something 20 years old, like a time machine, and then time capsule, and then we flush it out a bit. Okay, check this box, check that box, done, never done, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm not against the committee. This is going to be a big undertaking, obviously, but I think CPDC's guidance and, the school department and, all these different bodies. And I'll be honest, I've never read the master plan from 20 years ago. I might have read it my freshman year. Yeah, I might have read it my freshman year, but I don't remember. It doesn't stick out in my freshman year.
So I did have an informal discussion with Heather Klisch about a year ago, maybe even 2 years ago, from CPDC, just to kind of get things started, talk about the idea of a master plan. And at the time, I think she may have been in the chair at the time. I think she was very encouraging and interested in some activity there too. So I would encourage that they be kind of one of the key players in how it goes forward.
Melissa?
Jane?
Oh, sorry.
So I just pulled up the old master plan, from 2005, or it was actually dated 2006. But it says that, there was a committee and then CPDC adopted what the committee brought to them. And then it looks like CPDC was was
Sponsor?
responsible for ensuring the execution of the plan going forward. That's what they did in the past.
Yeah, because I know little things like Birch Meadow roof is on the horizon, or a new Birch Meadow, et cetera. Like, these are the kind of things that, you know, just can't be in my head and somebody else's plan that they have. I only know about it because it was in their plan, kind of thing. But yeah, it makes sense to get these things all flushed out to see where we're at.
Well, how much is the capital plan part of the master plan? I'm guessing they're integrated?
So as it relates to expenditures for stuff, definitely.
Yeah, right. But there's projects in the capital plan. Yeah, so
but today, I mean, a lot of the stuff comes to the capital plan, either staff puts it in.
Right.
Or it comes from, let's say, facilities,
a board,
because
a
the
committee, yeah.
boiler blew up.
Yeah,
we need a boiler.
Or departments, they need a new fire
That's what
truck.
the departments, yeah.
So that's a little bit more whack-a-mole, which is kind of what we've been doing for a while.
Yeah.
It's just, it pops up, whack it, knock it down. It'd be great to have more of a future view. See, as Pat was talking the other day about thinking about, look, you got 20, 21 buildings in town. They have a limited life. You're gonna need projects every, X years. That's part of the expectation. They did a grading of the buildings, right? So there's probably even an idea of, approximately when you think building A comes up versus building B. That would be great.
PVC or facilities?
PVC did that.
When they first started,
Yeah.
their first council.
They presented to town meeting conditions of all the buildings in town.
So I spoke with Andrew about this earlier today, our community development director, and he has a memo prepared that we'll include in your next packet for when you want to take this up. But in terms of some background information, feedback from communities that have been going through their master plan process, it's about a 2-year process, there's a lot of community engagement. It's about a $200,000 project.
Is it?
Yeah. That being said, we have some monies left over from our 3A work that was approved by town meeting for planning and so forth. That number looks like it might be as much as $145,000.
Why is it so much?
We worked all of the consultants the way we needed to work the consultants. We were overfunded.
I'm gonna be a consultant.
Right, well, I mean, we didn't spend it, so. So that number I just received tonight, so, that has to be looked at. So there's some there in a grant and working with, another organization made it possible. But
All right, that's good
one
to
of the
know.
things that Andrew wanted me to convey is that that calls for a comprehensive master plan. We've been doing a lot of the elements all along as we've gone. It's not like no plans have been done in the past 20 years. A lot's been done. And so we'll send you this memo. It's pretty detailed, and it's 3 pages, and talks about the bicycle and pedestrian plan from 2014, the wayfinding study, the housing production plan, the open space and recreation plan. The work we do with NORESCO talks about some of the different facilities and services elements that you would have. Economic development plan was done in 2015. So we have a number of pieces that are fairly up to date or could be updated, from 2015 for the new plan. So we don't necessarily have to do that huge comprehensive, but we could do more of a vision plan that kind of pulls the elements together, but still achieves what you're talking about. And we do need to do the facilities plan as well. That is really important, and Joe Huggins has been a big advocate for that. So as you go forward, we'll inform you of all the pieces in a summarized fashion and what are the different pieces a master plan includes. CPDC did talk about this in February, and they wanted to think about November town meeting. So, there's a timeline there that I think is achievable.
So right now I have it on as the 18th. Is that too quick?
No, the memo's written.
Okay,
It's most-
no, the memo was written, but all the other stuff you just said, that we're just gonna just, because I guess I wanna understand, next meeting, we can have the memo,
Yeah, and all the elements.
we can have the actual 2005, 2006 master plan in the packet, and then we can start kind of formalizing a charge or something, or like, we have to start formalizing something, maybe not exactly on the 18th, but start to coalesce on, okay, 5 to 7 person committee, what we want to incorporate, what a lot of what Mark said, and, you know, that it's not a small endeavor, so I want to make sure that we,
Might be worth getting some input from CPDC also, especially if it's talked in February, as in like a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
yeah,
they just talked about
They
it
just talked about it, yeah.
Yeah, so make sure that there aren't two stovepipes starting to run.
Yeah, no, we don't want that.
Right. Bring things together a little bit, see what everybody's thinking. One of the things this could do is, number one, it sets kind of expectations, if you will. And the other is it helps with priorities. I think that's the other thing that would be very helpful, because again, we've got 15 different items. How do they fit in? And yeah, boiler blows up. It jumps ahead in the queue, obviously, right? But other stuff, trying to figure out, okay, we're focused on this right now. How do we get that rocking? Focused on this. How do you get that one rocking? That's what I think the master plan could really help with, so that everybody kind of knows, hey, this is where we're heading. And
no,
this is how.
I agree. I think let's work on it a little bit next time, and then, given your limited time and how much input you've given us, trying to not just towards this, because we've been talking about it, and the 20-year anniversary, that's a good ring to it, right? That's a really good ring to it, and let's start working on it, get some things in the packet, and I'll talk to Frickin' Frack over here about what kind of a format we want.
Frick or you frick?
I might suggest maybe if you touch base even with the chair of CPDC.
We can, yeah.
Come on, it's after 9, it's okay. They know that I love them. All right, Karen, you have anything to add? You think that's a good path?
You're muted, Karen.
Sure, thanks, I'm good, no questions.
Okay.
Thanks.
Go ahead. Okay, let me scroll up. I think we're done.
Future.
Oh, future. Oh, it was just there. Yeah. So I have. I want to have more of the discussion on the Pleasant Street Center before town meeting, and particularly before Mark leaves, which is April 1st, his last meeting. So I think we touched upon it already, but I think town meeting and our April big meetings at the Packet and Zoom, not to know exactly, but need to know what we're thinking and what staff is thinking, what to do with that building.
Yep, FinCom might have some interest too.
Yeah, so I think that's, I don't know if that's a good tie-in for next week. Next meeting is, I hate to say this, and I regret it later, is light-ish, on the 18th. With April 1st is, we might try to jam some more stuff in before. I mean, we do have a meeting before town meeting, April 22nd, right? And I was thinking of maybe moving that meeting because that is April vacation. I don't know why I'm looking at you, you're gonna be gone. But I was talking to Matt and Jane about potentially having the 22nd, the 15th. But I that's to be determined, just because I want to see, we usually don't try to do meetings during February vacation, April vacation, just as a rule.
Come back to, it may be that we need to charge these folks with what to bring back for that PSC discussion. what additional stuff?
We're working on getting it to find out how much an appraisal will be, you know, to get an appraisal of the building, so we know if you know, selling it or whatever is
Should
not.
be a couple thousand,
Yeah,
several thousand, that's it.
yeah, so we can work on that. And I had done the presentation a couple meetings ago about some, you know, brainstorming about what a lease, who would lease it to, if we're gonna lease it, what could go there, historically and whatnot. But any more direction would be helpful, sure.
Did you guys share potential dollar amounts, expectations of what it could bring in that way?
For leasing?
Yeah.
There was some on.
Per square foot?
Yeah, there was some on, I'll have to go back to the.
I think per square foot, it, in the condition it's in, that's one conversation.
Yep.
When you do a commercial lease, you usually do tenant improvement dollars, whether it's free rent, allocation spread out over the course of the lease. So you could get a great per square foot rate. You know, $20 a square foot, I think it'd be reasonable-ish, you know, just spitballing. And then what you actually get is probably not the whole $20 per square foot of all the square footage during the whole lease, but that's just, you know, that's what's hard, what's real money and what's paper money. But yeah, I think an appraisal will help us with that, what we want to ask for per square foot. And do we want to lease the whole building? Or lease one floor, we keep one floor, or we keep the basement, you know, there's
Options.
options, right? And you know,
And maybe the ask for that meeting could be a discussion about what we want to have ready for town meeting. And
yeah,
is it kind of a proactive piece of the discussion?
I think we should. I think we should have an appraisal done by town meeting.
Okay.
Before time meeting.
I think so.
I agree.
So that's kind of what I had on my adding to the 18th.
Can I suggest, if possible, on the 18th, separate the master plan as one and capital projects priorities discussion? They're related. I would like to spend some time talking about the capital projects that are currently on the plan.
Well, do you want to do that on the first when we do the warrant? Is that you want to talk about just the
Are we
two
doing
cap?
featured items, you guys? Are we getting a little bit off track here?
Say that again, I couldn't hear.
No, we're looking right at the specific agenda, the future agenda. We're ready.
Yeah, so we're featured agenda items now?
Yeah, but that's exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
When you say specific capital projects, the two that are coming before us, or all of them? Okay,
Others.
gotcha.
So it's exactly as you stated here, priorities discussion.
Yeah,
I think you might have been thinking about it as part of the master plan. I'm thinking about it more in terms of what's going to town meeting.
yeah, okay, yeah, I see.
It's both.
It's both,
But
right.
I just want to
right.
make sure there's room in that agenda to talk about capital projects, not just as part of the master plan.
Right, I think, so we do PSC, master plan, and capital projects, which all kind of tie into each other anyway. And then we'll have to work on, okay. Anyone else for the 18th?
Not for the 18th, but I would ask that on the, I don't know if we do it on the first, to piggyback what Mark said earlier, is that it would be great to get an update on the funds that we have besides the trust funds, like the Burbank Fund. What else is sitting out there untouched, and how can we use it? Especially because we have all of these capital projects, Haven Street,
Right,
pickleball, et cetera.
yeah, just get an Excel spreadsheet of all the,
Yeah, just so we
Yeah.
can see what we have and, you know, what are the constraints, or how can we use that money?
okay,
Sounds great.
and you'll be ready for the first?
For
Commissioner Trust?
So I have spoken with the chair. He put it on the agenda for a meeting, which is next week.
Okay, all right, so we should be good.
Yeah, just see what, can't speak for the
All right.
group.
I only have future agendas, which is the charter committee board organization for what we'll do for forums, et cetera. So, but that's after May 23rd.
Yeah, we'll worry about that then. You know, let's get past, well, not get past, but yeah, you want to start, okay, I know you.
Yeah.
So maybe In May, yeah, all right. So trying to deal, all right. Karen, we were talking about an agenda item for the first on the Disabilities Council, and Laura Gem is currently our ADA coordinator. Are you wanting this to form an actual volunteer committee or hire somebody, or where I'm trying to get just some clarity?
This is a request that's brought up a number of times by some residents, so I think we need to talk about how other communities do it, and that's exactly what we would talk about. Do we need a committee to move forward with this, or is there another approach? So I guess I am looking to understand, but I wasn't aware that Laura was our ADA person, so that's great. Just what are other communities doing? What is working? We do have residents who are willing to be involved as well.
Okay, so you just want, we can, in the packet, have some examples of what some other communities
Yeah.
are doing?
What does it look like? Because we don't have one here, so what does it look like?
Right. Okay. Good? And then we're gonna do, I guess, do we want it as a separate agenda item, the vote of support, or we're just gonna roll what we, not,
You're spot on. We should have a separate.
after we close the warrant?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Projects plural.
Yeah, all right, I'll add that, okay. All right, and then, yeah, lots of fun stuff going on, all right, I think we're down to minutes, right? I typically don't have any changes, because I'm usually okay with it, but in a rare opportunity, I have a minor change. Oh, you have them up, thank you. On public comment, after the paragraph after the Angela Binder line, I don't own a business in town. So I don't know how we wanna. Chris owns a business in town, or?
That wasn't my statement. That wasn't accurate.
We're doing our minutes right now, no public comment, please. So we can just correct that, Jackie? Chris does own a business and I don't, so whatever you wanna word it.
So that what we probably should do is actually listen to exactly what was stated. Because these we can't correct per se, unless it's correcting what the person said.
I'm just stating it's factual, I don't.
I understood.
No,
Understood.
we've had in the past, Carlo, things that I remember Karen wanting minutes changed. I said it, we're leaving it. So if it was said or not, even if we disagree with it, we typically keep it because it was said, even though, So I don't think we have to approve them right now. We can.
Yeah, so I see what you're saying. Rewatch it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I would just like to say that we were talking about tax rates, and we have residential rates and commercial rates, and I don't recall, the comment might have been more about commercial properties. I take your point about businesses versus commercial property owners as it relates to tax rates.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think I think, yeah, well, if you want to get it right, we'll just do these next time. With any other major, mine's on a major change. Whether another, so now we have plenty of time to get any changes to Jackie for these minutes, and then maybe we'll have like another set of minutes. We're doing pretty well, thankfully, on minutes. So. All right, one more motion.
Move to enter executive session under purpose 3 to discuss litigation strategy with respect to Davenport v. Town of Reading and Miley v. Town of Reading. As the chair declares that the discussion in open session may have a detrimental detrimental effect on the town's litigating position. In these cases, to invite Town Manager Matt Cornellis, Assistant Town Manager Jane Wellman, Executive Assistant Jackie Laverty, and Town Council Ivrea Freed and Ethan Dively into the executive session, and under Purpose 7, for the purposes of complying with Section 22 of the Open Meeting Law, to approve prior executive session minutes of the following meetings, January 7th, 2025, and January 21st, 2025, with only board members and town council present, and then to adjourn from executive session and not return to open session.
Second.
Wow, that was a doozy. Good job. Roll call, Karen?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Carlo, yes, 5-0, thank you. Sayonara, Bob.